And hey there, ho there, good afternoon there. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Wherever you are, welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensie Owl Bob. That's me, this guy, this griot here. And don't believe a word I say. No, it's all fake news. Yep. And
Simultaneously, Butters and other South Park students are buying Labubus, which is taking over their school and are going up in price due to tariffs.
Labubus.
After Butters successfully finds his girlfriend Red a rare Labubu for her birthday,
Ooh.
they, along with other party guests, do a ritual, which leads to Trump and Satan showing up.
Ooh. So that's, you know what that is? That's South Park. That's the latest show. And Donnie is King Satan, right? They're going to have a baby. Ooh, what? Spoilers. Ooh.
At the end of the episode, Satan reveals he's pregnant with Trump's baby, leading to overjoyed reactions from Fox News.
I have seen your evil at work, Satan. I bid you leave this realm at once. You think I don't want to live? I am bound to him.
That's Satan there.
In hell.
There's Jesus.
Fine, here. You want to know the truth?
There's a sacred box.
Yes. We're together.
Yes.
We've been together for months, and I want to leave him, but I can't.
Because she's pregnant.
I'm pregnant.
Oh, yes. So that's always fun, right? South Park takes it so over the top that it puts it in perspective. And that's the beauty of South Park. And so that's where we're at. We're in this very strange, soap opera game show called Earth 2025. Remember when there was Space 1999? I mean, we were already on the moon like in 1943, right? Because we discovered that the moon, well, not we, the Nazis, discovered anti-gravity and then kind of zipped around and checked out the our solar system and basically found that the moon was the Death Star. You know, that's what George Lucas got that idea from, because it's our moon. It's the only moon in our solar system that doesn't revolve. It just stays in one place, right? The moon, the Earth kind of goes around it. And, that's why it goes from, full moon to half moon to three-quarters moon to back to half, down to no moon, the new moon. And so that's it. It's the only one that does it, right? And so anyway, there's so much stuff that's right in our face that we have no idea what the frack it is. And all our media is totally controlled, right? And it's a laughing matter. But it isn't laughing like, Charlie Captain Kirk. I met that guy in at LU, right, with Jerry Falwell, right? And he was a nice guy. He was I liked him. He wasn't obnoxious. He was smart. But he had a drive, ambition like you couldn't believe, right? And look what he did in less than 20 years, right? But I don't think he realized that he was being used, And I don't think he realized that he was going to be a martyr, right? Because he was, every time he did one of those things, he was the guy I met, a intelligent, honest, righteous kind of guy. Now, Jerry kind of got in, gave him the 411 about, hey, if you want to mix power and politics, and because right about that time, I was involved. I lived in a place called Bedford, and they were building the D-Day whoop-de-doo there, and this woman did all the thing, and all the stupid boys took the credit and drove her insane, and she had a heart attack and died. And Bedford is a very interesting little town. But anyway, I digress. But I was working for, my cover story is always that I'm an electrician. Who's that guy? Well, he's just the electrician, right? So I was in the room with all the important people, and well, he's fixing the lights didn't work, so we brought him in, and he always has an interesting story to tell, and he always has an interesting point of view that I didn't think of that. So Jerry and I were buds. We met in the most strangest of circumstances. Go back. I've told the story at least 5 times on this channel, so I won't take the 40 minutes just to tell that story. Go back and see my shows. I mean, I got 2,500. Just start putting them on thumb drives because the internet is going down. Electricity is going away, right? Because we don't need it anymore. Because we have basically wireless transmission, electricity, and 0 point, right? That's what nuclear submarines run on. I mean, if they actually had nuclear submarines are called nuclear submarines because they have intercontinental ballistic missiles that are MIRVed that can deliver like 10, hydrogen bombs per missile anywhere on the planet, right? What pushes it along is not a reactor with a steam generator and then a turbine and then an electric generator running the, no. It has, 0 point energy. That's why they're so quiet, right? So, because if they had a reactor on board that submarine, the sucker, it runs on, Donald Trump signed an executive order a day or two ago where he's going to sell on the free market, like in Walmart's, 198,000 tons of weapon-grade plutonium, right? And they say, well, how can a reactor, reactors that drive 1,000 houses are like a gigantic building. How are you driving that submarine with a reactor? Well, we're using plutonium instead of U-235, right? Oh, no. There's 0 point energy. Because if they had that sucker cooking in a reactor on that submarine, they'd need a lot of water to cool that sucker down, right? So, they're right in the middle of the sea, and they suck in the ocean, and they push it past the core, and then blow out the hot water out the other side. If they did that, all you need is a little, infrared satellite up in space, and bingo, there's the submarine. Right, so, no. And anyway, submarines nuclear weapons, anything nuclear is like caveman, right? It's really the most really bad thing about nuclear weapons. Well, 2 bad things. Radiation and fallout, and the electromagnetic pulse that we experience by it wiping out whatever semiconductor there is within 1,000 miles of the detonation. Right? That's you detonate one of those, a small atomic bomb at 300 miles above the Earth's atmosphere, right in outer space above North America, kind of over the middle, Mississippi somewhere, and detonate it up there, and it would wipe out every semiconductor from Hawaii to Paris, right? Just one. And no electricity, no cars, no nothing, anything with semiconductor, see you later, bye. So basically, almost anybody could do that, right? In the 70s, I knew some guys who, I was just along for a ride. They were smart, and they were that smart when they were kids, I mean, I was a smart kid, They kind of knocked on my grandma's door when I built my first Tesla toy, and, they went and looked at it and took notes on it, and the really important guy who was wearing the $3,000 Armani suit and had a $800 haircut and $1,500 shoes, where the rest of the FBI, et cetera, were in, like J.C. Penney clothes. He said, my grandma was smart. The guy with the jack said, FBI, we're coming in. She goes, let's see the warrant. Well, we don't have to have one. I said, no, warrant. We don't warrant. And then, she just wouldn't, my little Italian grandma wouldn't get out of the way, and she wouldn't be buffaloed by those guys. She's protecting me. I'm like behind her curtain, ooh, grandma. And, so they all went in and talked to the guy in the limousine. He came out, walked up, knocked, and said, so, you? And I'm like, yes. He goes, so what did you use as a bias for your coil? And, oh, the guy knows exactly what I did. So I started telling him what I did. And my grandmother's going, and he goes, don't worry, ma'am. Your son's in no problem. He is a gift. He is a resource. He is, I'm going to take it under my authority to watch out for your boy. Don't worry about him. So he goes, ma'am, can I come in? And she goes, sure, come on in. And he goes, ooh, you've got some eggplant parmesan. I would love some of that. And he goes out the front door and tells everyone to go back to the office. And his limousine stays there with two guys in black suits, men in black. And so he comes and has a little eggplant, and he and I are talking. Then I take him down to the basement and show it. He goes, we have to take this. And I said, what? He said, you can make another one, but we have to take this. You basically, and he showed me what I did wrong, that I was generating an EMF like you couldn't believe. So I was wiping out every radar installation in 100 miles. And we were right, 20 miles from Kennedy and 15 miles to LaGuardia and, 30 miles to Newark. And that was not good, right? So he said, we just got to take this. And he goes, next time, two things. You have to put a diode choke right at your ground. And then you'll be fine. And I said, oh. And he goes, what's even more interesting, that you'll like this, he goes, go get some dry ice and get a thermos that can hold a vacuum. And you'll be able to make, it's like a tokamak or it's a high particle generator, basically. Anyway, it's a thing that they use to isolate isotopes. Anyway, so he said, do that, and then you'll have loads of fun. Anyway, and it will not bother the electromagnetic spectrum, so we won't have to come back and visit you again. I said, okay. He goes, but I'm keeping an eye on you. So I don't know. He kept popping into my life, and I knew him till he died. He died when he was about 90, and he just, he goes, I'm not really dying, I'm going into another dimension. So, okay. He goes, I may see you some other time. So, okay. And I was 30-something when he died. Anyway, I was 10 when I met him, and I was 30 when he died. I had a lot of people I cared about who've died. Most people have no idea of what sorrow is, or of what missing is. I miss, my car, and let's see, what are you guys saying here? Back forward, you'll have no idea what to do. Yeah, probably. Let's see. Oh, you guys were saying a lot of stuff I just didn't notice. Hi, Jack. Let's see. Message is held. Why do you guys write stuff that gets held? Let's see. Book club. Yep, book club. Yeah, books are good. I used to be part of book clubs. Pepper, pee-pee, poopy, pee-pee, pee-pee. Okay, that's whatever that is. Hi. Stop speaking. What you say? What do you think about your life? Oh. What do I think about my life? My life is blessed, and I am open to any experience. Me, if Alex, what is it? Ajax, Alok, Ja, Alaja, Loco, Ja, whatever. I mean, if you were really hot shit, you would transmit yourself and, like Star Trek, and beam yourself here, and you could be part of the show right here and now. You have no idea what to do. Pretty much, yes. It seems to work out for me pretty well. I look forward. Uh, uh, Rocky, hi. Rocky, where are you? I'm here. I'm right here. Here I am. I'm right here. So anyway, so all this stuff, like all the people on the YouTube that go on and on about Donald and fascism, and they don't know what fascism is, right? So it's not even close, right? And you have to realize that humans, there is more good in a human than bad, right? The probably most problematic problem of humans at this time is that we are very domesticated. We're bovine. We're very easily manipulated, right? So that's probably the worst thing about humans. But when we work together in love's co-creation, we really, um, let's just rip Charlie Kirk. Oh, rest in peace, yes. And I would say he's somewhere else where he's not resting. So I don't even know. Meaning, I understand how things can be done. Like whoever shot him was not the guy they have, that's for sure. Because whoever shot him was a professional, right? So, and every one of these kind of I mean, virtually, meaning up until the '60s in America, we had a Second Amendment, but we didn't have automatic weapons. There was a federal law that said you could have a machine gun. You could have a 30-06, you could have a shotgun, and you could have a revolver, but you couldn't have an automatic, right? You could have a cartridge. You could have like a 30-06 and a cartridge, but you still had to have a bolt, meaning, bang, you hit the bolt, and when you do this, it ejects the brass, and another bolt goes in its place, and you push the bolt in, and so you had to, gun had to be bolt action, couldn't be automatic. And one could have a gun, and you could have a revolver, but you only could have 6 bullets in it, and you couldn't just throw in another clip. You had to take about, you could have an auto loader, that would, take, but took about 3 to 5 seconds to shoot one bullet in a revolver, right? And whereas an automatic gun, like a Glock, you can, as fast as you can pull that trigger, you can, and the other, the revolver, the action of the gun was not gas, right, or a spring. It was your finger pulling the trigger, which caused the revolver to put that bullet right in the line of the firing pin and the barrel, right? So it took about, and sometimes to really pull that trigger, it was you had to do exercises with that trigger finger, and it by pulling it that hard, you're jerking the gun one way, whereas automatic hair trigger, you just had to pull it, bang, bullet is flying out the barrel, and the case is flying through the air. And you can shoot as many bullets as you can pull that trigger. So like bang, 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 right? Whereas a revolver is like bang, 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 right? And then you have to put the 5 or 6 bullets into the revolver, right? There is no clip, right? So up until the 60s, that's the kind of guns Second Amendment was, but basically the powers that shouldn't be a had we had the Vietnam War, the M16, because up until the Vietnam War we had the M14, which was M14 was like a 30-06, but a nicer, a better bullet, and um, and that bullet could do many things, not just kill a deer, and um, and that gun was very accurate, long. That's what the long gun is, big long barrel. So you have a little scoop on that sucker, you could hit almost anything half a mile away, if you were good at it, right? If you were a sharpshooter, marksman. But that still doesn't make you an assassin or one of those guys who wears stuff so you can't see them. Whatever they call it, I forgot what they call those guys. But anyway, winter forecast or the direct weather. Yeah, my buddy. So anyway, so the very interesting thing about 26,000 black men die a year from handguns or automatic weapons, an AR or a handgun, right? I saw a YouTube where this neighborhood is having, a block party, right? Everyone's got their little hibachi out there, the music's playing, everyone's dancing, having a great time, and a car kind of slowly drives through the crowd, and some guys start popping off. Well, everyone there is packing with a 9 millimeter. Those clowns who went through the crowd, they hit one guy, ran over a guy. That's the only guy they hurt. They shot like 12 bullets from the car, didn't hit anybody. But everybody, there were like 300 people there, everybody and his brother started shooting. And not just shooting at the car, but at other people they wanted to shoot. This is a good example. I'm going to kill Bob. I can't stand him. Bang. And that was just off the hook. And you go, all those black people, it's black on. No, all the people in that party were white. 26,000 black men get killed by other black men. And that's what the police say. Could be, who knows. White people, close to 50,000 white people get shot. And most of them, 30-something thousand, get shot with their own gun. I got this gun. I'm going to protect I got it for safety reasons. And it gets taken away from them. Or their 8-year-old picks it up and basically the 8-year-old shoots himself and his head is like still soft like a melon. So the bullet goes through the kid's head and then takes dad and mom with it. Mom's behind dad and 3 with 1 bullet. And that's the kind of stupid shit that goes on around our country and doesn't have to. It didn't used to. Hey, let's make America great again. Go back to the 60s where basically everyone had a middle-class job where they could afford a house, a car, and send a kid to school so he could do better than dad and grandpa did, right? Well, those days are gone. Not coming back either. Unless we in this country work together. We don't go after each other, right? So, Charlie was a nice guy. Like I said, I met him once. Yeah, more than one. No, once, right, at LU. And he was, like I said, I was having dinner, he was having dinner with, or a meal. I don't know if it was dinner, but it was a meal. And I saw Jerry's car up at Doc's, his private diner on the campus of LU. I went in there, and there is Charlie. Not, like I said, a very nice guy, really smart, very sharp. We had a really fun time. And, Jerry was tooling him on because we were, I was where I was in Bedford. That's kind of, like I said, this war memorial. People out of that started, there was a, economic downturn. It was called the bubble, the dot-com bubble. And that's why we had the wars in the Mideast, to hide the fact that, the Defense Department lost $2.4 trillion in less than 6 months, right? So anyway, and most of the money that our debt is made from is to finance this off-world enterprise. That's going to be coming in our showcase. You know, it's just like what's that show where you guess what it is, how much it cost, and it's like behind door number 2 and door number 3. Let's make a deal. I think so. You know that show is coming on, and it's going to be but they already made the deal. You know the EBs. You know extra you know biological entities, EBEs, right? PBS News, 30 live in 30 minutes. Okay, how much battery? About half. And I've been doing this now 25 minutes, and nobody's watching, right? So anyway, so I just laid some interesting. Again, these are just stories. Don't believe a word I say. None of this is true. This is fake news, right? But anyone who dies in a violent form, no matter who or what their ideology is, it's a tragedy, right? And I mean, all the babies, young people, the innocents that are dying, wars. We have 100 wars going on across this earth, and it's all for money. It's all for taking someone's natural resources, right? Just taking it, right? What's going on in Sierra Leone? I mean, that one is probably the worst war. There's, in the Strip, it's only 2 point something million people. Sierra Leone, it's almost 80 million people going through the same thing, and it's not like one doing something like that. No, it's like Sierra Leone's general of the army had a tiff with the general of the National Guard, and these guys were basically paid to have this war because the despot who ran their country for about 30 years, he retired, took a lot of money and went to someplace else, and because the people were fed up, said, we're not working, we're not digging shit up, we're not doing anything, we're not buying, we're just going to sit here. And they said, okay, we're going to get rid of him. And the army guy said, okay, you pick some people, an interim little group, and make your constitution and this and that, and we'll back you up. Well, they were doing it, and they were going at it, and things were putting along. And then the two generals were, kind of the money man showed up and said, hear that? They're trying to fix the road that has been destroyed since last year this time. Anyway, things are falling apart. And that's, did you ever read Blake's Heart of Darkness? That's kind of where we're at, right? And then they made the movie Apocalypse Now, right? And that was basically the film version of Heart of Darkness. And both those books, both those stories, the one about Africa, that's Heart of Darkness, and the one about Vietnam, which was Apocalypse Now, was about the same thing that's going on right now, meaning both those wars were about Western, foreign, imperialist nations, stealing indigenous people's stuff, right? Kind of like what Europeans did to the indigenous people of North and South and Central America, right? And they're still doing it. So, where do you think all these gangs get the guns from, right? They're military grade. That's where they're getting them from. And they could be stopped, but they don't want it to stop. Just like Hamas. Where's Hamas getting all its weapons? How come IDF, that's the biggest, baddest military, in the world, they can't beat a few guys with AK-47s, right? How come? Because that isn't the military reason. And also, the Hamas were put there by, go Google this one, IDF, Mossad placed Hamas in the Gaza Strip back in 70-something, maybe 80-something. Anyway, so I mean, just to keep the things on the bubble, just to keep an eye on everything, so they know. I mean, so the IDF, all those, BB, everyone knew about October 7th, right? Actually, there was an article in the New York Times a year before October 7th, 2 years ago. And this stuff is quite evident. Does the media tell you about it? No. Newspaper? No. Any people who write books? No. They kind of make inferences. Guys like Chris Hedges, guys like Noam Chomsky, guys, etc. There are a lot of people who give you very good information, right? But don't lay it out. There's only the guy who I can't, I only have my passive aggressive phone here. I don't have my other devices that I can do screenshots off. But if you go back some shows, there is a guy I really, really like. He's, darker, he's, as they would say in my old neighborhood, he's Caribbean. And he wears glasses, and he's got a bald. He kind of looks like he's like a tan version of me, right? And he is way more erudite than I am. I'm just a chucklehead. I just tell you stories, right? I don't bargain or push any, ideology, right? I don't have I have a bias. My bias is love's co-creation, right? God's unconditional love, Jesus' unconditional forgiveness. And those are the powers that's why we're still here. We've done so much stupid stuff. We should be toast. Why when I was given the opportunity, like for the 15th time, guy, you should work for us, and I did. And I lived that corporate 11-figure salary, paycheck lifestyle with those guys, and I only worked 11 to 10 weeks a year, right, to make my nut. And but I lived that life, meaning they were entertained by me, so they kept me around, and it kept me in 5-star hotel with my dogs, and took me out to amazing restaurants every night, even when I wasn't working for them, because I was entertained. And they would run stuff by me, and I would. They were probably paying $3,000 a day just to be entertained by me. And they weren't paying me per se, but they were facilitating this lifestyle that I gathered over, 12 years. I gained 250 pounds above the 200 pounds I already was. So that's why as God said, no, you're not committing a sin living like this, but there's a price to be paid. So I'm paying it. And it's also a gift because it puts things, exactly. I don't have to watch people I love die. It's just every time I move my legs, oh, wow, that hurts. But it enables me to take the things I learned when I was between 19 and 30, my esoteric teachings that I was taught, how to get rid of pain, how to, keep your body alive when it's already dead, stuff like that, without having to do magic, without having to be occult, right? Or even be esoteric like the Masons. I'm just a chucklehead, I'm just an itinerant scholar. That's all I am, right? And I'm here on this little TV show to talk to you about it, right? And thanks for the 4 thumbs up. But, I want to do an experiment. Keep those, give me, any thumbs up you want. Great. But also throw in some thumbs down, because I think the algorithm is more sensitive to the thumbs down because they want to integrate the negative vibe, because you get more advertising from the negative vibe than you do from the positive vibe. So yes, keep giving me the positive ones when you feel it, when you feel like, boy, this guy, I really like him. He's really making me feel good. He's telling me these stories that I'm like seeing stuff. So yeah, and so yes, okay, so I like this. But even if you're watching it, and even if you do say, wow, this feels pretty good, throw in some thumbs down, as long as they don't take away from the thumbs up. Because anyway, so give that a try. It's just an experiment. All of this is just an experiment. I'm just the pebble in the pond of the World Wide Web. That's it, right? So, anyway, ugh. So it's kind of a gray day, and it does a little rain, and then and that's good because yesterday was an interesting day because it wasn't really windy, but 4 or 5 trees came down, which shows that nature is rebelling. This is like the Garden of Eden. And can you hear that heavy equipment? Right? They are basically destroying this place because they want to build, 8 600-room casinos on the lake. And they want to have strip malls everywhere, and they want to have $1 million houses everywhere. They want to turn this place into, Asheville. Now, I lived in Nashville from 91 to 99. Well, from 91 to 96, there were about 60,000 people in Buncombe County. Now there's 500,000. And the place is like an ant farm. I just don't go there anymore. Over 1 million cars a day. Hear that? They're ripping apart the mountains, so they're clearing off the tops so they can put cul-de-sac, little special communities, building 10 to 20 houses gated, but each house is the size of a Lowe's store, like a 20,000 square foot house. You really need that for 2 people. And that's only one of your 40 houses you have. Yeah, that's anyway. So that's what that noise is. They're destroying the tops of the mountains over in Pogie Land. Right. Which will change the hydrology of this area and wipe out more of the highways and roads and totally, So this has been going on in a serious way since 5 years, and really going on in the last 3 years. From 20 until 23, the corporations just came in and dumped billions of dollars and bought everything, pushed everyone out to the point that they facilitated the event that happened here, right? Helene, right? Helene was not I know, you should go watch. I don't know if they even have it. So my friend came and got me from here and took me to his house, right, closer to in town, right? And he woke me up. So I was like in my pajamas and had my bunny slippers, and I got in his truck. I should have driven my car behind him, but I couldn't see. I don't drive at night, right? And so I just got in his truck and we drove home, right? And so, his old lady and his mother-in-law were watching, the Fox and the news, and the wind was blowing into, off the Gulf of Mexico into Florida, and it's going to be a tragedy. But it just took a little turn, and it missed all the big towns, right? And went into Georgia, right? And then into South Carolina. And by the time it left Florida, they went to bed and I was watching. And by the time I went to bed at 1 o'clock, it had gone through Georgia and South Carolina. It was kind of coming up through the mountains of South Carolina. So it looked like it was heading our way. And it was, kind of really blasted through Asheville and went that way. So we got the edge of it. But what happened to us was someone hit us with some neutrino beam that basically rejiggered the water, and we experienced what Noah's Ark did, meaning Noah built this gigantic ship, put every animal 2 by 2, and then it started to rain a little bit, and then all of a sudden the water was up to everyone's kneecaps. And they ran up the hill where he was and let us in. And before he could say anything, they were drowned. And that's what happened here. I mean, we didn't have any big wind. We didn't have any big rain. A friend of mine showed me his camera from, on the side of his house. And he has this little stream that feeds into the Nolichucky. And so he was like, he wasn't even there. He was in his house somewhere else. And he showed me it, he emailed it to me. And anyway, but basically, the image is like off his deck, and he's got a big, nice backyard, and then the mountains kind of go up. He's kind of not in the valley, but he's on a like little thing, right? A ridge, and so there's a little stream. So the camera's like looking off his deck and off his backyard and off into where the stream is, and then where the forest is, and the mountains up above. And so the stream is just being the stream, like the little trickle that it always is, and then the trickle gets bigger, 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 and then it's going pretty like a garden hose was like right, and then all of a sudden this wall of water just went, and luckily his house was kind of up on the other side of the ridge, but his backyard was kind of in a little holler. And that's the kind of place I am. But I have really good drainage. So anyway, it just was that, went from like a garden hose worth of water to 7 feet of water shooting by, and, everything, parts of people's homes and cars, and just shooting by, right? Anyway, so around me, whole forests, the trees didn't get blown down. They didn't get snapped by a wind like a tornado. They were shot out of the ground. The water came up out of the ground and shot the trees. And big trees like those I showed you yesterday, the big 200-foot tulip poplars, all around us, like, all of this. There used to be trees right up to here, but all of the open area is trees, and they didn't fall on this guy's house. A couple fell on the guy's house, but most of them fell up the hill, not this way. See how the hill goes up this way? And these are the little poplars. The really big poplars shot up the hill. And there were a number of them that were on this side of the road and shot across, and they were 200 feet, so the root ball was in the lumberjack road. So anyway, it was an interesting event. And, so we raised to the occasion and saved the day, and we have a community center out of it. That's what we did. And for the 10 weeks from the event, for 10 weeks, so, and that was like September, October, November, December. By January, by the time what's his name, Donnie was getting sworn in, things had gone back kind of to the normal. But September, October, November, things were just please. And December, things started to mellow out. But those 3 months, everyone helped each other. It was quite interesting, quite exhilarating. Everyone really, they did it because it made them feel really good, right? So, and we've gone back to where we were. And because of Donnie, people are a little more separated, isolated in their own silo. When the event happened, everyone came out of the silo and helped each other. It was quite interesting. So anyway, what's happening to us now has happened. I was around and aware and remember McCarthyism. I had teachers, Miss Gerling, who is like a saint. Her father was a college professor, and he was I knew 4 teachers I had that this happened to. All these guys became teachers because their parents were teachers, but during World War II, they volunteered and went and fought in the South Pacific and in Europe. And they all stepped up and became, it's like, Saving Private Ryan. It was like, or Brothers. I mean, all these guys came back with a chest full of medals and just amazing, right? And they went back to being teachers, right? And before the war, like between 1880 and 1910 to 50, 10 was the first hitch, but so between 1880 and 1910, before Woodrow Wilson, there were like 8 political parties, Republicans, Democrats, right? The workers, Wobblies, socialists, communists, black, and women. They were all parties. Well, blacks and women couldn't vote, but they had enough financial power, and they couldn't own shit either, but they had enough financial power that they could basically back people who could get elected. And so there were many factions in our government, so they had to work together, so they had to compromise. And that's when unions became powerful, and the worker, instead of getting 2 cents a day, was getting like, $5 an hour, right? And so he could, make investments and save money and buy a house and have mortgages that he could afford, and no one was in debt, and they could buy a car and go on a vacation and have a life, right? And that was from about 1890 to 1950. And 1950 is when, the McCarthyism and other, that's really when, like Woodrow Wilson, he's the guy who put Jim Crow in. I mean, it wasn't after Civil War and Jim Crow took the place of slavery. No, from 1880 to 1910, we were trying to rebuild something new, and we were doing some pretty amazing things. And that's the beauty of America. And that guy, Charlie, right, Captain Kirk, he had that energy, right? Now, he was being used, and he was, like I said, he really wanted to succeed. He had a lot of that in him. So he was trying to be his best, but he was, again, reading his script, right? Following the party. And my friend who has a good tan and wears glasses and kind of looks like me, but a little more Persian, I think his channel is called Middle Nation, right? Oh, you guys are writing stuff. What are you saying here? I have to go back a ways. Where are you? Charlie Kirk said hi. This is very interesting. Where are you? Said hi. Hi to all those who said hi. I don't want to not say hi back. Hi, Santa. Now, I'm Santa's younger brother, Bob. That's where I got that name, Bob. Owl Bob, And I take care of the naughty and nice list. How's your health? Pretty good for a dead guy. In the hospital. Oh, let's say a prayer. So our friend here is Y'all are here. Okay. So we all are there. Father, hear our prayer for our friend Y'all here. Whatever's ailing him, take the burden off from him and her. Put your love in him and her's heart. Bless the other in you all are here, right? And know that we love you. And we're here because we love you. Right? Okay. All in the hospital. Let's see. Hi. Santa, what's going on? I'm enumerating. Someone's going up the logging road. Let's see if they know what they're doing. Yeah. They did okay. Maybe they didn't rip the road up too much. You can hear them when they're spinning the wheels, digging a hole in the road. Rest in peace. Charlie. God bless you and those around you. Yep, I echo that sentiment 100%. Right? Said hi to those who said hi. Hello, hi. And Charlie, wherever Charlie is, Charlie's right here, right now. Because he's feeling the love that we have for him, right? And now the people who were, using him, those guys, another story, right? But we have to come together. We have to get out of our silos and realize that we are all the other. Charlie was just the other, right? And his ambition got the better part of him because he, let himself be used, right? And so he thought that, and everyone who does that, in the end, doesn't work out too good. Like Donnie, he's taken this all to the bank, and I mean, I grew up in New York. Donnie was a presence on page 6 in